Not
Perfect
Josh
timing.
Comics DC Weekly News. Josh is upset about cell phones and their terrible reception, I guess. Well, they just don't. Nobody ever calls anymore because the calls are always bad quality. Just keep it to text. Um. Okay, Creature Commandos star Sean Gunn reveals a DCU show's premiere window on Max. So, finally, I don't think this gives a specific date, but just a window. Well, next summer, Superman Legacy will kickstart the DCU in theaters. The upcoming Creature Commandos TV series is going to be the first DCU Studios project set in the rebooted reality. While the animated show is going to be put spotlight on a relatively obscure group of characters from the comics, we can't help but think James Gunn will take this opportunity to lay the groundwork for what's to come in the new DCU. There have been rumblings for some time about Creature Commandos premiering on Max in 2024, and that's now been confirmed by star Sean Gunn. Talking to Screen Rant at the Saturn Awards, G.I. Robot and Weasel Actor said, "We have Creature Commandos coming out in the fall, which is amazing. I just can't wait for our audience to see it. And with that, we have a premiere window. So that could be anywhere from September to November-ish.
Okay.
There was a time when it looked like Waller would also be released this year, but thanks to the SAG-AFTRA strikes, it slipped down the release calendar. In fact, James Gunn seems to have shifted his attention to Peacemaker Season 2. Quote, "I love that project," Sean told us about Creature Commandos. "The scripts are really good, are so good that we've already been doing a little recording, which is fun. I can hint and tease that we're going to learn a little bit more about Weasel, which is going to be interesting. I just love G.I. Robot so much. He's driven by one thing and one thing only, which is hatred of the Nazis and his desire to kill as many Nazis as possible. So for me, as somebody who hates fascism in all its forms, I can relate to somebody who wants to go out there and put the smackdown on some Nazis." Creature Commando stars Frank Grillo as Rick Flag Sr., Indira Varma as the Bride of Frankenstein, Zoe Chow as Nina Mazursky, David Arbor as Eric Frankenstein, Ellen Tudyk as Dr. Phosphorus, Sean Gunn as G.I. Robot and Weasel, Maria Baklova as Princess Ilyana Rostovic, Steve Agee as John Economos, and Viola Davis as Amanda Waller. The Witcher star Anna Chalotra, meanwhile, has been cast as classic Wonder Woman villain Cersei. So we'll get Creature Commandos finally summer to November. I would probably expect we'll definitely see a trailer at Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con.
I think this would be probably right near the end of fall, I would say.
So like end of October? I mean, you know what? Halloween
November.
Release. Creature Commandos, that fits.
I could see that. I could see that big time, actually. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
More James Gunn news. He is legally not allowed to work for Marvel again, even if he wanted to. I don't know that he meant again, but when James Gunn was originally fired from the third Guardians movie after coming in for significant backlash for a series of resurfaced tweets, he made the jump to DC to helm the Suicide Squad for Warner Brothers before being rehired to finish Volume 3 for Marvel Studios, which was the correct decision. Of course, Gunn has since been enlisted to run DC Studios along with Peter Safran, which appears to have essentially ended his working relationship with Marvel Disney. On Threads, Gunn was asked if there's any chance he might write a fourth Guardians movie or the planned Star-Lord spin-off, and the filmmaker made it clear he could not physically or legally work for Marvel Studios while acting as co-CEO of DC Studios. Because his headline's a little misleading, because it put in again, but clearly he can if he's no longer working for DC. Like, yes, most big companies have a non-compete clause where there's so much time has to go by before you can go to work for the competition, but it's not going to be for life.
No,
unless they paid some ridiculous amount of money, like $2 billion, to never work for Marvel again, even if he fails at DC.
Do you think that like Warner Brothers was smart enough to give him enough money to like not go somewhere else for how long? Like, you got to think his plan is going to take 10 years.
Yeah.
They want to expand on it, another 5 years? So let's say 15 years. So a decade and a half. You think they paid him enough for a decade and a half?
Oh, maybe like they gave themselves the option. Like, your contract's for 10 years. We have the option to retain you for another 5 at this price. Like, you
Maybe.
know, like a football contract or whatever. Like
Yep,
they are a
yep.
baseball contract. Like they have the option
Yep.
to renew if they want, but they don't after
Yep.
10 years if they like, you know, they have an out clause.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. Well, how old is
Maybe.
James Gunn at this point anyways?
He's in his
He's
early
57.
50s.
So by the time he's
Oh
done,
my
he'll be
God.
67, at least with the 10 years of DCU. So yeah, maybe he never will really work for Marvel ever again.
He was 50. So he was probably like 54 or something when he picked up his wife. 53 maybe, and she's like early 30s, maybe late 20s.
Well, is this a
I
shock
could-
to people that
I could be wrong.
someone in Hollywood is dating James Gunn, Jennifer Holland. Okay, so Jennifer Holland is 36.
Oh,
So she's probably 33. So 24-year difference? No, well now she's 36.
20ish.
So yeah, so 20-year difference.
I don't know. Okay,
That's not unheard of in Hollywood.
that's not Michael Douglas level.
Yeah, how old is Douglas when this is way off topic.
Oh man, he was
Catherine
like
Zeta-Jones.
kind of old. Like he was like in his 60s, was he not? Because he is like gone now. He is a shell.
He's 79.
Oh my God.
Zeta Jones is 54. So it's a 25-year difference.
Okay. Still though.
That's not I think that's not the most egregious in Hollywood.
Oh, I know. I was just going for the most kind of popular / like well-known ones
Okay.
for the kids.
While we all ruminate on the age gaps, message from our sponsor. YouSellComics.com, your new multi-vendor marketplace. You Sell Comics offers a site exclusively for buying and selling of all things comics, slabs, omnis, trades, and more. Sell for as low as 5% commission or 0 commission monthly tiers. Run your own auctions, unlimited bin listings. YouSellComics.com. Buy, collect, sell. Okay, so Aldous Hodge played Hawkman in Black Adam. He's talking about coming back. He wants to be John Stewart in Green Lantern. Through the decades, John Stewart Green Lantern has become a vital part of DC's superhero lexicon. In recent years, John Stewart has also thrived in animation, with Black Adam star Aldous Hodge voicing the character in DC animated movie Green Lantern Beware My Power, and subsequently portraying the character in the ongoing Crisis on Infinite Earths 3-part animated movie, which I haven't watched yet. I haven't watched the first part yet.
I watched the beginning and it was all right.
Okay. Typically, the DC animated stuff was always better than their live stuff.
100%. I've watched a bunch and they're very good. Oh, you know which one I just? It's so funny that you brought that up. I just finished. Oh my God.
Red Sun?
No, Apocalypse War. Justice League Dark.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Apocalypse War.
That's an old one.
It
It's been out
was
for a
from
while.
like 2018
Yeah.
or something or whatever. It was cool. It was sick.
You know what? And it was also weird to me that DC had a number of animated movies come out and they were good, and Marvel did it once. They had this Avengers 1 and 2, and if I recall, Avengers 1 animated was better than 2, but they were still fine. But then they never ever did anything else like that again with an animated movie, which is odd because they
Waste of potential, to be
yeah.
honest.
I mean, now they're doing it with What If
Yeah.
and X-Men animated again, and that Spider-Man show.
Yep.
The high school one I think is animated, but
Freshman
yeah, it was
year.
weird that they didn't tap that market.
Agreed.
Where was I? Okay. While speaking to comicbooks.com about his work in the upcoming Marmalade, Hodge addressed the possibility of reprising his role of Jon Stewart in live action. I mean, look, I'm open for whatever. Hodge explained in our interview, which you can check out above. I would love to live out the rest of the legacy of Hawkman because we had some amazing plans for him, but also with Jon Stewart in sort of a live action capacity. I mean, I've voiced Jon Stewart in animated space for years now. Few years, Phil Lamar passed the baton. Shout out to Phil because I'm a big fan of his work, but if that became a film adaptation, absolutely. I mean, that was one of my dreams growing up, was to be John Stewart in live action. So yeah. So we know there's a Green Lanterns show coming. I don't expect this to be in the near future whatsoever. Like, the Lanterns will probably be in 2026, 2027?
If we're lucky.
Like, I know they've been talking about it since before the sale. There was supposed to be a Green Lantern show for HBO Max. But then, what's his name? Put a stop to all that. David Zaslav.
And I don't think they would have kept anything from any of those productions or anything
or whatever. And,
like
because now it seems like it's a different thing where it's a group of lanterns is not, because originally it was supposed to be just Jon Stewart. I'd be fine with Aldous Hodge playing Jon Stewart. He was good as Hawkman. Like, I mean, he didn't have a lot to work with, but you know, he's a good actor. So
he was a good part about that movie.
Brave and the Bold update shared by James Gunn, as rumors suggest DCU's Batman will be cast next. When DC Studios announced its DCU slate, among the most exciting projects was The Brave and the Bold, a new take on Batman. It will see the hero discover he is a father when he meets Damian Wayne and takes the boy under his wing as the new Robin. Unfortunately, it also means Matt Reeves' The Batman trilogy will remain as an Elseworld franchise. Many fans have argued since it was a missed trick on DC Studios' part not to bring in Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne in the DCU, though it was always unlikely he'd be willing to become a franchise player and join the Justice League. It's also very different. The Batman was a very different world. Like, I would have a hard time imagining Superman flying around in that world of the Batman.
Like it's I mean, there's so many things, but I think the main one is that the movie was quite focused on, you know, let's say the first year of him being, you know, Batman, which is also derived from year one, which is great. But, you know, I feel like they're just going to kind of trickle down that lane a bit more where, you know, we don't know obviously where the story's going to pick up in part 2 or whatever, but I would assume that it's going to be maybe just a few years after.
Yeah.
I don't imagine it being quite too far into the future. And I couldn't see really anything with Pattinson's Batman intertwining with anything that they're going to do with the DCU for another like 10 years.
Yeah.
Like I could see maybe in 10 years after he hasn't played him in a couple of years, maybe they bring him back in Elseworlds or something, or fucking Crisis or whatever. Right.
DC studio James Gunn recently responded to a fan on Threads. He loves Threads now. No more X. Who asked whether The Brave and the Bold
Twitter's a nightmare.
will only be released after Reeves' trilogy is done, making clear he's unconcerned about any overlap. The filmmaker responded with a simple no. And on the news, after casting Superman and Supergirl, it sounds like Batman could be the next DCU lead we see find an actor. Hearing that agencies are anticipating a casting call will be going out very soon, and the DC studios will be firing up the bat signal, Scooper Charles Murphy recently claimed on X. Let the speculation commence. No idea what kind of Batman they're going for.
Yeah,
whether
nobody really has a grip.
Like a huge imposing Batman, like an Alan Richardson, or like a more Michael Keaton type, you know, smaller.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit more brainy than huge imposing. I don't know. I don't like. They obviously want to differentiate their Batman from Robert Pattinson, especially just because it's going to be Elseworld. But then they want their Batman to look different. So Pattinson's kind of tall and slender. I mean, he's got muscle, but it's not like, you know, he's. At least he seemed tall and a bit lanky, no?
Yeah, I would agree.
I don't know how. Although with tricks these days, Robert Pattinson. How tall is he? 1.85 meters, which is what, 1.85 meters? 6'2"? 6 feet. Yeah, so maybe they might want to go like 6'6", actors 6'6", 6'5", like Brock Lesnar type, like just hulking. And then he'd have to be, you know, he'd have to use his power because he wouldn't have speed at that. Although Brock Lesnar was pretty fast back in the day for for wrestling. He was a NCAA champ. I'm not saying you get Brock Lesnar. He is in a bit of a scandal himself these days.
I didn't even know. I haven't even looked.
Oh, so that I don't really follow wrestling, but I have a cousin who follows wrestling, so I used to be in wrestling when I was a kid, or a late teen / early adult. But that Vince McMahon stuff that came out,
yeah,
Brock Lesnar is also involved in one incident in that alleged trafficking of it was alleged. I mean, his name wasn't in it, but it was pretty much him. Like, it was a former UFC champion that works for the company. That Vince requested the woman who accused him of all this stuff to send him a P tape because he liked that stuff. And then there was like a setup for an encounter, but there was a flight missed or something. So Brock didn't make it to the alleged encounter that was supposed to happen set up by Vince. So I don't know. He's been taken off television as far as I understand.
So Vince is making this girl send P-tapes to Brock.
Yeah.
Against her will, most likely.
Yeah.
And then basically Vince had her ready in a hotel room, ready to piss.
Yeah, there was some sort of setup or encounter talked about.
And the guy couldn't make the flight, so this girl's sitting on the bed on a tarp.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it got that far, but according to text messages, there was
That's ridiculous.
Sort of yeah.
That is crazy. I didn't even read. I didn't read that part.
Yeah, that kind of got glossed over initially too. I didn't read that till a bit later. Like, oh, that's in there too. Ugh.
I found it quite interesting that all that news came out, and then there was really no wrestlers getting also accused. You know what I mean? Like, obviously Vince is a terrible person.
John Laurinaitis, which is like his right hand man or whatever.
Yeah, but I couldn't imagine that every single wrestler, present and previous, was not somehow
involved in it too.
Involved, like what's going on? Like, did Triple H know anything? He had to know something.
I don't know. Like, they also signed that huge Netflix deal the week that news came out.
That's crazy, dude. That's crazy.
I don't know. A lot of people look the other way. He had. It was already known that he had paid off 3 women $50 million to keep quiet for previous affairs or whatever, and then he got ousted from the board. Said he was retiring, and then did a hostile takeover and put himself back on the board like 8 months later. So,
yeah, I don't know. That wasn't long ago.
Okay, back to comic book news.
Right.
Superman Legacy director James Gunn says 2 more DCU projects are about to start production. As 1 year passes since James Gunn unveiled the known DC Studios Gods and Monsters Chapter 1 slate, Gunn took to social media to update where things stand with the highly anticipated cinematic soft reboot of the DCU. Quote via Instagram, 1 year ago today, Peter Safran and I introduced our DC slate for the first time. Thanks to all of you for the support you've given us throughout the year. Today, Superman Legacy is about to start production. Episodes of Creature Commandos are being finished, and that will release later this year. At least 2 more projects are gearing up to go in the next couple months. Amazing scripts, keep them coming in. Incredible talent are being attached to the projects planned and unplanned. Oh, I don't know that the unplanned part is a good idea. That sounds like you're pivoting on the fly. And you're like, oh, you know what would be a great idea? Let's do this and not stick to our plan. Let's call an audible. I expect one of those projects to gear up is Peacemaker Season 2, because I read he's finished the scripts for that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the other one would be. Oh, maybe that includes Matt Reeves' Arkham Asylum show? Or maybe he's including the Penguin? Because that had been filming for a while, and then it got shut down by SAG-AFTRA strikes, and then I think recently restarted. So
yeah, I just want to see more Colin Farrell in the fat get up. Like, man, he was It was good, man. He was good.
Yeah. Maybe he also means the Authority? Because, I mean, they haven't... Oh, well, actually, no. Supergirl. They just cast her, so I guess that would
Yeah.
be kind of
Yeah,
the
they'll
last
probably
thing to do before starting production.
Because that's supposed to come out 2 years after Superman.
Did you see the before and after of David Cornsweet?
Yeah, I did. I did, dude. From what is it? From like May
Like
of
6
last
months,
year.
yeah.
May of last year to November or December of 2023. Jacked, dude. When do you think so he probably knew what, a couple months before we knew?
Yeah.
So he was probably getting ready.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Before and after. Yeah, so that, like... they're really not going for, like... In The Boys, Anthony Starr is not... He's not... That's all rubber. His bulk...
Yeah.
They're not going for that with this. They're like, you need to put on weight.
Dude. Yeah, he looks huge, dude. It's gonna be interesting. I mean, I think Cavill pretty much set the bar
For
on how
big he
Jack
should be.
Yeah,
Like,
and like I think
Christopher
everyone's
Reeves
like, okay,
was big at the time. He put on some muscle.
Yep. Yeah.
But he was also pretty tall. At least it looked like it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Brandon Ruth was really not. I don't remember him
he's-
being a big Superman.
He's a skinny boy.
Yeah. So they're going in the continued direction of unattainable muscles. Okay, so Matthew
Yes.
Vaughn pitches Red Son adaptation with Henry Cavill as Man of Steel. This is exciting. Argyle director Matthew Vaughn, which I don't think did very well at the box office, which is kind of sad.
It did not, unfortunately.
Has helmed several comic book movies over the course of his career, including Kick-Ass, Kingsman, and X-Men First Class, but he has yet to dip his toe in the DC movie universe. The filmmaker recently revealed he would consider taking the helm of upcoming Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow movie after House of Dragons and Millie Alcock claimed the lead role, but what about the Man of Steel himself? I like how he's this confident that he would consider it. No one's offered this to me, and I don't know if James Gunn is interested, but I would consider it if they offered it to me. You know, like, yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm interested enough in Supergirl.
He's getting really cocky lately, eh?
Well, I guess Argyle, I think, probably knocked him down a peg after this.
Well, probably, but my lord, like...
Bro Bible asked Vaughn if he'd have any interest in directing one of the DCU Elseworld movies that DC Studios' James Gunn is planning, and it sounds like he could definitely be persuaded to come on board for an adaptation of Mark Millar's Red Son. I thought Red Son was one of the cleverest comics I've ever read. In the current world we're living in, it's certainly become a lot more relevant because ignorance causes more issues. And I think the more we learn about Russia and the Russian history, that doesn't really... And I think the more we learn about Russia and the Russian history... Vaughn then had the idea of casting our previous Man of Steel and his Argyle star Henry Cavill as the Soviet Union Superman. Wow, could you imagine remaking Red Son with Henry Cavill? That would be an interesting movie. The premise of Red Son asks, what if Superman's ship landed on a Ukrainian collective farm rather than in Kansas? As we see the Man of Tomorrow grow to become a state-sponsored superhero whose civilian identity is kept secret, and who in Soviet radio broadcasts is described not as fighting for truth, justice, in the American way, but as the champion of the common worker who fights a never-ending battle for Stalin, socialism, and the international expansion of the Warsaw Pact. Red Son is based on a thought that flitted through my head when I read Superman 300. As a 6-year-old, Miller said of developing his initial idea for the story. As an imaginary story where Superman's rocket landed in neutral waters between the U.S. and USSR, and both sides are rushing to claim the baby. As a kid growing up in the shadow of the Cold War, the notion of what might have happened to the Soviets had reached him first. It just seemed fascinating to me. As I got older, I started putting everything together, and I first pitched something to DC when I was 13, I think. Although it was in a much cruder form, of course. My drawings weren't quite up to scratch back when I was 13. an animated adaptation was released in 2020. Jordan Vogt Roberts pitched a live-action take back in 2017, but Warner's Brothers declined. Yeah, I would take this movie for sure. The animated one was good. I read the trade of it, which was also good. There's a cool Batman in it that's a freedom fighter against the communists.
Okay.
I think, if I recall correctly, Wonder Woman is in it too. I'm pretty sure she's in it. Yeah, she's also in it.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, she's an ambassador by the Queen. Yeah, you could do that. I don't know that Henry has any time. He's doing Highlander. He's overseeing
Warhammer.
an entire new universe of Warhammer. Not sure he would have time to do any of that.
I think he's probably done.
Done with superhero movies?
At least for like portraying these characters for a little bit. I think honestly, Superman and The Witcher kind of just
left a sour taste in his mouth when he doesn't have creative control.
He's definitely. I would say he would definitely be sour. I would be sour.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, you start The Witcher off with such a good, like, you know what I mean? Like, he was a great Geralt, I thought.
Yep.
I thought the cast was pretty close to being bang on. Dandelion kind of won me over.
Yeah.
Trish didn't so much.
Yennefer was fine.
Yennefer. Sorry, Yennefer.
Ciri was fine.
Ciri was good. Trish was good.
Yeah, it was just the writing that let them all down.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But he's like, this Warhammer universe is going to take, it'll be 10 years. Like, if it's successful in the first project or two, it'll be another, cash cow for Amazon, and he'll be involved in it at least for the first 5 or 6 years. And then maybe he can take a step back once he sets the tone and he's overseeing and not actively in production meetings all the time. But yeah. Okay. So that is DC News of the Week. If you have another idea for who could play Superman versus Red Sun, let us know. Or your choice for the Brave and the Bold Batman, or Jon Stewart's Green Lantern. All right. Thanks.